Hey, welcome. This is Sandy.
And this is Trina. How are you?
We have some good things to talk about today that's going to make us all think.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into it.
Let's do it. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
I think that, let's talk about this. So Sandy and I, we tend to have these conversations sometimes, and the conversations could just go in all kinds of different directions, right? We'll start off with a comment or something we saw or something we heard or witnessed. And so this conversation that came up to us was specifically about hope. Maybe you could start us off, Sandy, about just a conversation about, hope, but more importantly, it was about worrying too, and where that leads us to.
Right. We were talking about choosing hope over worry. And how do you get there? What does that mean? How do you
Mm-hmm.
break that down? How does that translate in your life?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you begin to process and eventually accept that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's inevitable, right?
Yes.
We are going to worry. We don't want to. I don't want to, right? Um, but it's the unknown. I think we've said that before. Like it's the
Hmm.
unknown. Like, okay, I have this loss. I have these choices. I have these decisions. I have so many things I have to do.
Hmm.
I don't get a choice in them. Um, so I mean that kicks in. That I'm
Right.
I'm I'm worried that this thing will lead to this thing, and this thing could lead to another thing. And so how's it going to work out is one of the worries that I think comes up for a lot of people.
Hmm.
How do I see myself, in the future? How do I see myself, you know working out or working through whatever the situation is?
Absolutely. And for me, I believe oftentimes, whether we're consciously saying it or not, you'll say, God, I hope I get this phone call that tells me that, I've been approved for something that really been wanting, or I hope that this situation passes soon, or I hope that this doesn't happen. So we automatically kind of default to the word hope organically when we're trying to figure out a issue or a situation.
Mm-hmm.
But the word hope itself is really what we're talking about in this segment of how do you begin to process that. And for me, I think hope starts with belief.
Mm-hmm.
My belief is strong, my faith is strong. So that is where I rely on my hope to be resolved through my faith.
Mm-hmm.
And so spiritually, I rely heavy on that. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's the encouragement and that's the motivation. And that's what I choose to pay more attention to
Mm-hmm.
versus the issue or the problem within itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe that we are so concerned about how it's going to unfold and what's going to happen that we just go down this rabbit hole and you start asking and answering your own questions
Mm-hmm.
without realizing, without remembering, we don't have control over most things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think when we stop to really think about that and process that in itself, first of all, I don't have control over this.
Mm-hmm.
What do I have control over? I can believe, I can have my faith, I can have my support system, I can have whatever guidance that's driving you, whatever you feel comfortable with. Mom, dad, partner, friend, children, whatever you trust,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's typically what we will lean on. So, with that, you have to have hope. It's a good thing to have hope.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how grim or dim a situation is, there is still hope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, that's kind of how I see it, Trina.
Yeah, I think the concept though of hope, putting it over
Mm-hmm.
worry, like
Yes.
Like how do I put these things that I'm concerned with
Right.
away, which is where worry comes from.
Right.
It's that concern. I'm what's going to happen next. But I like what you said though about having faith, having some just some deep rooted spiritual faith that would no matter this is not the end,
No.
and this is just a part of my story, not the whole story. And
Exactly.
so, and we don't want to say the loved one was just a part of the story. It is probably the biggest part of your story. However, just having some hope will
Right.
hopefully help you put away some worry. Because I like what else you said too, though, that we don't control it.
No.
And if we were just to kind of take our hands off of it and say, I don't control even pretty much the next 10 minutes, because anything can happen,
Right.
right? We get
Right.
that in California. We're in California where an earthquake could happen, right? Just anything could
Mm-hmm.
happen. And so, since we don't control it, we got to let the hope, we have to let it override the
It
worry
has
of
to lead.
it does. I
It
like that.
it does need to lead. And again, when we say grief, your
Mm-hmm.
grief could be definitely outside of losing someone. It could be the loss of your job you're worrying about. It could be the sick loved one that you have that you're caring for or need to
Mm-hmm.
care for. Grief is such a broad spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many avenues and so many directions that grief covers.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're thinking about this hope over worry, don't just think of the loss of someone. It can really be applied to any part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Hope over
Mm-hmm.
worry.
Mm-hmm.
And what worry does to you, it's exhausting. It's so exhausting to play back over and over and over what we typically tend to do of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And you find yourself so exhausted from that that it's hard to hold on to hope. Well, if you
Mm-hmm.
stop and try to reverse that and hold on to the hope and keep believing and keep motivated and strong and focused on the good that could happen out of this, the hope, the other end of this, versus the gloom and the doom and the bad and the all that thing that just keeps pulling from you. Because even in grief, there is still there's still so much that you're dealing with. So to not have any hope and to not have anything to look forward to,
Mm-hmm.
it only deepens, to me, it deepens the sorrow that you're already going through.
Mm-hmm. You know what it made me think about though,
Mm-hmm.
just looking back on some things that have happened in your life. We all know what the past might look like for each one of us is different. But if you look back on something that was tragic, like the loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if some time and space has happened, you might look back and say, not that you're glad that it happened, but had it not happened,
Right.
this would not be happening now.
Right.
And that in itself should be fueled, in my opinion, with hope
Yes.
that something good can come of this, even if it hurts for the
Even.
loss.
Mm-hmm.
But later on, down the road, I mean, that's something to kind of hold on to. I just have this image of people that play tug of war,
Mm-hmm.
and what you're trying to do is just pull to get ahead. But some force sometimes will be pulling on the other end, and so just if you can just one day at a time, pull. That's
Wow.
just let that be your hope. Pull it in, pull in something different, and pull in something. And I'm going to assure you, it will never be the same. We said that before, but it does not have to always be bad. So, so we're going to put the worry in a box if we can. Every day, wake up. It's a task for you. Wake up, even if you need to write it down. Worry, I'm going to leave you here today in this box. And I'm not saying you won't pick it back up, but every day make the effort to choose
I like that.
hope
I like that.
over worry. Choose it. Just write both of them down in a box. And then every day make a conscious decision to pick hope up. Just carry that with you today. Leave worry there. Leave it in the box.
Wow, that's really great. That's a wonderful tool for all of us to use
I think it'll
in
help
any
us.
situation. I definitely think that that hits it spot on. Well, friends, we thank you for sharing your time with us. We've had a great
Yes.
time with you. We hope this has been helpful. Please don't forget to share this video with someone that might find it to be useful in their life. And again, don't forget to find your lighthouse.
It'll help you find your way out of the dark.
Until next time,
We'll see you later.
thank you.
Bye bye.